son, where'd you find this?
Buckle up, buttercups. It's time to get down to business. It's the Totally Legitimate Business Podcast. Totally legit.
Welcome back to the Totally Legitimate Business Podcast. We're done with that stupid intro, and I can introduce you to the magnanimous Kellen Oleksak. How you doing, buddy? Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm extremely honored. I've been looking forward to this my entire life, especially more so over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah,
very exciting. I love all the work you've been doing. I love your voice. It soothes me.
Listen, people have always told me if I can figure out a way to get paid to talk, I'd be doing well for myself. I still haven't figured out a way, but
you're on track, buddy.
Yeah. I guess this is how you figure that out. So, Kellen, I want to ask you about something that's particularly important to you in a number of different ways, and has become increasingly more important over the past couple of years. Telecommunications. Can you tell the folks? Nobody's watching right now, but if they were, could you tell them about what it is you do and how it is you ended up doing it? Because it's an interesting path.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, absolutely. So communications that I work in right now is satellite communications, and it serves lots of different users, different end users, pretty much anything you can think of. Underserved communities that desire high throughput communications to stream large amounts of information, government services of all kinds. And so what I work on right now is I'm test the design, test the satellite, in factory before it's actually released. So I do a lot of performance testing, performance analysis to show and prove to the customer that buys this particular communication system that it does everything that it's supposed to. And it does everything to the performance standards that they need to ensure that they have reliable communication on their end to anybody that's transmitting or receiving through that system. So that's kind of in short what I do. I do analysis work and then testing for the release of it. So I've been doing this now just for a couple of years. It's been a long journey to get here, but how kind of I got started in was working in the music business. We worked together quite a bit. We went to Blue Raiders and CSU, where we met a lot of close friends of ours, and we made it through there somehow in the borough. And towards the end of that, I got interested in electronics, and I also got very interested in digital signal processing. Because as you know,
it's just funny. I was going to say there's like more of an overlap there than you think, in the sense that we graduated from a communications college.
Exactly.
And when you were doing stuff in the recording music in the music business, like you were dealing in communications, not the same layer of communications that you are now, but it's funny that there was always that overlap there with communications.
Right. There is. And I view both they're both communication methods. It's just different medias.
Yeah, absolutely.
The information means something differently, which is also something that I wanted to talk about a little bit too. But, so it kind of naturally led into that. We were in mass media, and we're like, how do we get this out to people? What kind of message are we trying to send? And what kind of music do we want to create to get to people? And so there's that, but then I got really interested in the inner workings of like, one, how do you record sound? How do you save it? How do you produce plugins to process sound? How do you create amplifiers to project music to the masses? All those things started to really I would think about like, oh man, I would really love to know how that's designed and how it's made. So I pretty much dumped the studio work I was doing and went back to school fully. Went through kind of an undergraduate path again in electrical engineering, and then I ended up doing a graduate program in radio frequency communications and digital signal processing for that. And I ended up doing some projects in radar and electromagnetics, and then it kind of ended up getting me a gig where I am now, working in a digital signal processing group and subsystem engineering, like commanding and controlling a communication system for a major aerospace company. So that's kind of how I got where I was today. But that's kind of a condensed version of it. But it all started with music. It really did.
Yeah. Well, and again, communication. Like even if you boil down to the specific intent of the type, like the type of data you're trying to transmit with the communication. When you were a kid, that was how you first learned how to channel your emotions. Everyone kind of finds it through different things. You were also always really into math. Even just doing math in math. But then even musically, like you were constructing it differently than most people would be doing it, because you had a different message that you were trying to convey with the shit that you put out there.
No, I mean, and a lot of that has to do with like some of the time we spent together when we were making music, and also when we were living together. You were big, like, because shortly after that, I kind of started I remember I started doing the math stuff on Khan Academy, and when we were together, and you were supportive for me to kind of do something else, and it kind of unfolded that way. But yeah, I think part of just thinking differently about what you're trying to put out there in the world and how you want to contribute. Definitely.
It was also the town. Like what I often think about this too. Like now, it was cool that we were there for school, and Nashville was awesome. It was cool. We got the things that we had access to, unrivaled, especially living in Berry Hill, dude. We wanted for nothing musically or recording, nothing ever.
Right.
But then again, also, like, the type of stuff that you were doing for work was not necessarily music that was super fulfilling to you to be a part of. Like, had we been in a different city and we worked in metal studios, or in a town where metal music was just a much bigger scene, maybe that wouldn't have fucking corrupted your view of it as fast as it did. But it's just funny. It's just funny in the sense that, like, it just wasn't challenging you. You needed a challenge, and it wasn't challenging you. And it definitely, the music business is hard, dude. It's fucking.
It is. It's a grind, and so I mass props for people that stay in it and work that the entire life and are super talented.
Sure.
There's a lot of talented people that just can't market themselves correctly, or they just don't get the break, So I feel for that. Saw a lot of that, and I kind of quickly saw, like, I'll take the guaranteed money. That's kind of what I was going with.
Yeah, dude, for sure, 100%. 100%. And honestly, this shit is just more interesting to you. Like, I even just hearing you talk about it along the process of you going through all this shit. When you're in Knoxville, like, all the updates, you sounded invigorated about what you were doing in a way that I hadn't heard you speak about, like grinding away demos. I don't know if I ever heard you speak about, you know what I mean? Like, it's just
never.
It was a strange stepping stone for you to get where you're at, but it is all connected through the communication,
Yeah, exactly. Just it wasn't the right medium for me, I guess. I wanted to do something different.
Yeah.
So
okay, so I know you had some bullet points here.
I did a couple. Yeah. Do you have any specific things? Like, I feel like I get a little background on myself, but some knowledge I have to talk to the points. But did you have anything particular?
There were a couple things that were funny that popped out to me. They would be just anecdotal, and I'd have to, like, read through here quickly and, like, pull them out. I took notes on each era of communications. Now,
Nice.
I remember I was sober enough during the entirety of college to have absorbed all of the base level communications classes, and this was obviously a part of it. Another metric that I still, like, go back to frequently is the thing where they would always tell us, like, how long does it take a mass medium to reach 100 million users?
Mm-hmm.
And if you look over the course of history, it's become exponentially shorter for 100 million people to have access to something and be using it.
They're not waiting for a CD to show up at their doorstep.
No, definitely. So it was fun, like, stepping back through memory lane. But the thing that sticks out to me the most is that did we get better at communicating? We have all this technology to communicate better, but did we get better at communicating? You know, that's
Right.
the conundrum for me as I was looking through all this, and it's like, oh, sure, we can transmit this shit faster, but how does that make it better? Even the internet, like the internet's just phone 2.0. Like we like to make it into this much more exciting or bigger thing than it is, but really it's just the phone line 2.0. It used to be on the phone line,
Hmm. Yeah.
you know. So I I don't know, the hilarious exponential rise in people's access to information and how we communicate, and even just, you know, how like spelling goes down when you have autocorrect on every device. Like everyone loses their ability to like coherently form a statement that accurately conveys a message. I don't know. It's just this like a
Absolutely.
strange. That's what I kept as I was reading through all this shit. I was like, we've come so far, but
Yeah. I mean, you
we're
pretty much
still
nailed on
sending,
the head
you know.
what I've been thinking about too. That same conundrum is where has this really gotten us in terms of what it means to communicate as human beings? You know, I mean, in a way, it's provided some negative impacts because of the ability to just consume, and not have any thought process in terms of what you're getting. Even a way you're consuming so much and it's so available to you that you're just shoving down your throat anything that anybody will push at you, like social media platforms, news media. I mean, just anything. So that the ability to send more information means at some point somebody's going to flood the system, you know, to try to benefit themselves in a way. And the people suffer for that in a way in terms of communication as humans, being able to sit next to somebody when you're sitting there waiting for your food or at the takeout and not be on your phone. You know, you can be like, oh, hey, how are you? What are you doing today? How are things
Or,
going?
you
You
know,
know,
just
like,
looking out the window,
yeah,
just looking and literally
thinking for
living your
yourself.
life. Yeah, really, it's not that hard. Yeah,
Yeah,
for
those
sure.
kind of things are like lost art forms are becoming so. But also the rapidity of or rapidness of people to learn is also, it's like some people can excel quickly in that environment. So we get these people that are becoming extremely intelligent really quickly. So I think there's good and bad. You know.
Yeah, well, for sure. This is something I talk about with a lot of different people. We were the experiment. Like our generation was the first generation that had, at a young age, access to internet, and it completely shaped our opinion of the world very differently than our parents and our grandparents. Like I can't remember. I don't know if I heard this in a movie, or if I actually heard this in a communications class, but there's the idea that in 1900, in a year, you're only coming across so much information. There's barely any radio stations. You might have a record player. You might have more than one newspaper in your town. But in a year, you're only coming across so much information. And
Hmm.
at the point that I heard this, which would have been in like 2010 area, the amount of information that the average human was subjected to in 2010 was what somebody in the early 1900s would be subjected to in a fucking year. And not that much further beyond that, an entire lifetime.
Well,
So it's like we have lost sight of it. Definitely the younger generations, they haven't known anything different. There was a time before this. There was a
we
time
were on the cusp
when
of it. We were.
we were the fucking experiment, dude. Like and there were pros and cons. One of the funniest things I think about when it comes to all this shit is like why people still argue. We have Google now. There's no need. There's no need to argue. Oh, is that what you think? Let's Google it. Oh, okay, cool.
Exactly.
But even that's like, if people still forget to do that.
They
People
still get
can't.
upset. They're like, no, whatever. I know I'm
Yeah,
not right, but
You
I'm
need
still
you
upset
need to
with
find
you.
another source. Well, here's
You didn't
5 of
handle
them.
that.
I don't believe it. I don't believe
I
it.
don't like how you delivered that information to me. Yeah.
Again, did we get better at communicating, or did we get worser at communicating?
We got much worse, sir.
Yeah, it's really, it's just very funny. And you know, I I joke about this a lot. We live in a fucking prison of screens. Everywhere we go, we're looking at a fucking screen. And not that long ago, it didn't used to be like this.
Hmm.
Not that long ago, you weren't constantly connected to shit. But again, it's
Right.
pros and cons. Like, there's amazing things that come from having instantaneous access to all the information in the world. Like, that's really cool. That's a great thing that modern society can offer us.
It's the use cases for it.
Yeah. What do the humans use it for?
What do they do with it?
And that's,
And as we've learned over the last so many years, we're not all sharp knives in the drawer.
Definitely
So
not.
I'll just put it that way.
Definitely not. And we also now live in like the age of fucking who knows what's true, right? That's
Yeah.
the every year it becomes more difficult to discern, like, is this fucking propaganda? Is this story real? Is this a deep fake?
It's going to
Is
be so
this,
hard to
you
even
know,
tell. You used to be able to decipher a little bit on your own just by having general common sense. And now it's becoming the technology has advanced so much, and then the fact that it can get it to you quickly and have something done like that, especially with like AI generation or I mean, it could get you convinced, and if you get to people first and they all start thinking one thing, then the masses are saying this is what I believe, and it might not be true, but it can have serious impacts, and that kind of stuff scares me, man. I don't know about you, but it's you've seen some of the generation they've done and movies they've made or things. I know people are manipulating them a bit in a ways like feeding it and cutting stuff together, but still, it's scary where it could go.
it is. It is very scary, and I think that's it scares. That doesn't scare me in the sense that, like, I expect that is just a layer of our reality now. Like, with the con of the pro of being constantly connected is that you're constantly connected and you're constantly touchable and reachable in some way. If that's not hacking your data, stealing your identity, it's bombarding you with fucking bullshit information enough until you see it enough to where you think it's fucking true. And
Mhm.
this is the funny thing, is that humans, like, are that programmable. There's tons of fucking science behind it. All you have to do is bombard us with a certain thing, and all of a sudden we fucking believe it true. If a couple other people around us say they think it's true, game over, dude. We're fucking, oh, I'm going with the crowd.
Yeah, least path least resistance.
That's not what scares me, though. And the reason that it doesn't scare me is because that has been around for forever. Religion. Like,
Yeah.
this is going back way before communication. Like the
Yeah,
tribal, the tribal, like, just baked in lizard portion of our brain. Uh but that part of the brain is also super emotional. So what scares me is less that people are subjected to it, because we're subjected to it all the time. Advertising. Like, there are so many ways that we are programmed to behave, and we just fucking obey. The school, government, conforming to laws. Like, that's a contract that we agree to make every day.
Mhm.
And I just think it's hysterical that uh, God damn it, I had a really good point and I've completely lost it. Son of a bitch. Regardless, take it away, Kellen. I completely steamrolled myself right off the track on that one.
This is good timing because my screen password Enter. Hold on, 2 seconds. Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you and I
Oh,
can hear you. You're good.
all
Yeah.
right, that's fine. I won't interrupt it. I can't see anymore, but um,
Oh,
yeah,
oh,
no, I mean, well, let's say let's backtrack 5 minutes and get back to the
yeah,
bottom of this.
yeah.
So we're talking about mass media dumping and not knowing exactly what could be true, and you're talking about the fact that you weren't scared about AI generating information that people
You
might
nailed
think is
it.
wrong.
You nailed it.
But then what were you actually scared of?
What I'm scared of is people's emotional reaction, right? So
Yeah,
most of the signals that we're sent on a daily basis via our devices or the prison of screens, the matrix of screens that surrounds us, most of those are rather innocuous. Buy this, go here, do these things, listen to this, whatever. What scares me is people's reactions to the sinister shit.
yeah,
Like the
yeah,
let's get a group of people believing that some crazy thing is happening, and then a bunch of people emotionally respond to that
right.
theory, and we're already seeing it, okay?
Yes.
And it's not that it's new, it's just happening a lot more frequently.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think, to the point of just getting things to people fast, the minute if a lot of people have that information and a lot of people can congregate into a way and start thinking that thought, and you beat everybody to the punch, then yeah, you can create situations where a lot of people are acting upon information that could be inaccurate. And we've seen examples of that over the last so many years, and probably examples of that in time when communications weren't so fast. Because there's like if you think about when communication wasn't fast at all, and people start putting out information, it takes forever for people to check the facts and things. And next thing everybody has a mindset about something. Whereas now, at least people that have a clue and are aware of it can be um, perceptive in the fact that what they're seeing initially may not be the truth, and they can at least do their due diligence to understand what's actually happening or what
Yeah.
actual information is there. Whereas in the past, you didn't have that. So maybe, I mean, there could be situations where it's worse. I don't know if there's any case studies about that kind of thing, but uh, I it all comes back into people using the technology for the right reasons, and being aware of the pitfalls of the day and age that we're in, and not just going blindly with information.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that's the tricky part. And like there's a piece of me that's like I do like the internet lawless. Like I do like the fact that there's people who are constantly testing security threats because that makes security better.
Hmm.
You know, I like the fact that you still like you need to be ever more vigilant about your activity online and the networks that you connect to. But dude, 90% of people don't give a fuck. They're not going to give
Yeah.
a fuck. It's just like it's like I have always gone back and forth. Is it the programming or is it a choice? And I feel like it's 50-50. Like you have to thinking about the world this way isn't nice. It's not easy. It's not fun. And a lot of people don't like to hear about it because everyone has their shit and they don't want to pile on top of it the idea that they're just like, completely helpless and they have no control over anything in their life. They don't make any decision. Not even the shit they
Yeah.
buy. It's not even by choice. It's something they were sold. So I get that. But the programming is pretty aggressive. Like really just think about the access that they have to us now.
Mhm.
I saw some article about McDonald's trying to like uh partner with some of the smart devices to like advertise during your sleep. So like your smart home device will whisper sweet things
Oh
about
my
McDonald's
goodness,
that you should buy in your sleep.
I love that.
Think about the fucking access they have now. They already have our fucking eyeballs for the majority of the time that we're awake. They already own that. That's over. Your ears, a fair amount of time, almost equal to your eyes, maybe less, more so, depending on what you do.
Yeah.
But then your fucking sleep, bro.
Man, this is exactly why I don't have a computer. Okay. I mean, I just do stuff on my mobile phone, and I don't get I get less advertisements. I can figure out how to do everything I need on there, and I feel like I'm not a person that gets like, oh, I'm on this website, and there's an ad for something that I was researching the other day. So I see it happens all the time on other platforms. So for whatever reason, I don't seem to get it as much. But then also, I want to ask you how, without the sense of sounding like superior, from either of our perspectives, how does that stuff really work on you? Like when you see it, or are you just like, okay, all right, they're watching me, like,
bro, does what work on me? Like when I see an ad that I talked about?
Yeah, you're like, oh, I should buy that.
It doesn't freak me out, bro. This is advertising. This
Right.
is a $1 billion enterprise. They've
Yeah.
been doing this for a long fucking time. This is not new shit.
Yeah.
All the social media apps, it's just targeted advertising. That's how they make
Mhm.
money. So they've built whatever systems they have, whether they're tracking your retinal movement depending on what post you're looking at, whether they're tracking just your heart engagement on across your account, whether they're listening to your fucking conversations even when you don't even have the app open, whatever.
Right.
Of course they do, because that's their fucking business. They're trying to make money, and the asset is our information. And it's designed to just fucking suck it out of us. So again, it doesn't freak me out. I accept that is it's just a part of living in a constantly connected world. That's a major con.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
We can go live in the fucking forest right now. We don't have to do this.
You might be able to if there's forests to live in.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we could go to Montana or Alaska. I'm sure we could do, like, this is what I'm saying. Like, we don't have to do this. We choose to live in this society every day. We can fucking go somewhere, buy a cheap plot of land, and do whatever the fuck we want. Be completely gapped from all this, but we make a choice to be a part of this every day. And if you make a choice to be a part of it, it's you just got to accept the cons with the pros.
Yeah,
and,
you're right.
A sad part of modern existence is fucking getting hacked. A sad part of modern existence is identity theft. A sad part of modern existence is, being compromised in ways that no other humans have known. We were the experiment.
Yeah.
Okay, but before we get any deeper, you've kind of frozen. You've frozen on here, so I'm wondering if maybe
I need to unlock the computer.
Yeah, you might need to unlock the computer. That might fix it. If not, maybe just close out and rejoin. Because the face that paused is hilarious. And it's gonna be awesome that was the past 10 minutes. But
all right, give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, no problem.
What's your password? The computer locked up on me.
That's awesome. Nice. We did it.
Sorry about that.
Speaking of being compromised too, I cut the audio right as you were asking for the password. See, like this is our life. This is just part of our existence now.
Well, luckily my partner is smarter than me and didn't tell me and just typed it in.
Genius. I muted it. I cut the feed anyways. Like as I heard you starting to say it, I was like, nope. But we're good.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
Seriously, dude. Funny. This is a funny side note. On a majority of the security systems that I have downloaded footage from, and I've downloaded footage from hundreds of security systems, the password is usually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just saying. ABC 1, 2, 3. Like it would if you have 6 tries and you
You're
try.
Like, wow,
dude, it's honestly it's crazy. It's crazy. It's starting to get better, but most places are still like we're just so compromised. We're so compromised that we have no idea. This is what's funny to me, dude. Like. Specifically, if we want to talk in terms of like how the communication is maybe used against us, like when Edward Snowden said there's limitless wiretapping occurring, right? That was in like 2014. And he came with the proof, and everyone was just like, eh. And then recently, people are getting super concerned about their data being compromised. It's like, guys. It was compromised then. That was 10 fucking years ago. Like whatever information you thought was secure, it's not. If you go to Have I Gotten Pwned or whatever that website is and put in your email address, guarantee you it's been compromised. In some data leak, in some fucking company's hacking. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I guess my question to you would be like, in terms, as somebody who's a communication specialist, on the horizons, what are the things in just terms of like, what are the things that scare you just in terms of something being hacked, something being compromised, the state of the infrastructure and what you think will be like the real threats as we move into the, at least, I guess, near future with how quickly this technology moves, I'm sure.
Yeah.
20 years, who knows what we'll be doing, but.
Yeah. I mean, interestingly, there's lots of different, fields in terms of communication. This particular one, like cybersecurity, information system, that stuff, I don't know very much about, but I can tell you that if we ever get to like quantum computing levels, like just forget about like any type of password protection or whatever you have, because that thing will break it regardless. It's just like, oh, I can do this. I can brute force anything because I can do calculations so fast that I can just try everything and I don't even care, So at that point, what do you do? I think that there always has to be some kind of like hardware mechanism or hardware safety that's involved in it, and it usually involves a human being, which means it's inherently flawed.
You mean like a hard switch or what?
Well, like for instance, like locks can be broken, or you can convince somebody to unlock something for you.
Right.
So in terms of, is there any way to like fully protect something digitally? I mean, I think that probably goes into blockchain. I think that if that has certain practices that everybody follows and can certify that something's true, but also be able to protect people's information, that's probably, where it's going to go.
Yeah. Sure.
So I think that is kind of my answer in that. There needs to be something developed to handle this, maybe it doesn't exist right now besides humans practices.
I think you're right. I too, not to like fucking shill crypto, but I think it's going to be blockchain too. The whole reason I got into crypto in the first place was because what blockchain is. It took my buddy a bunch of times to explain it to me for me to understand what it is. But once I understood the concept in its most basic form, it became clear that this solves a lot of the internet security issues, the digital ownership question, How can you verify something is, authentically digitally yours? As we move into a more digital-based society. I mean, like, fucking, bro, everything's digital now. Tickets. I haven't had a fucking ticket stub for a concert in a very fucking long time. Everything's digital now. And,
It's sad. What do you do with your concert tickets? You can't put them on the wall anymore.
Well, I have the fucking memories.
It's all about the ticket, man. It's not about the show.
Yeah, you're totally right. I only have like a real handful of tickets, but I digress. But I will agree with you. I think it's blockchain. I think how do we solve a lot of the issues with access on the internet now, and blockchain offers pretty reasonable solutions. Once it's accepted and can be scaled up to the point at which it can take what the internet takes every day, which obviously is still, I don't know if I don't know when blockchain will reach that 100 million, daily user base, but
well, it's so new and make it happen, but you need to have some kind of regulating body to like really put things into place. Like I think a lot of this, some of the information that we'd shared together over the last week or so about like the ITU and how they regulate communications and push different communication systems to the masses. They had a large group of people with good intentions in a way to make sure that everybody has access to this. Are there bad actors involved in that? Sometimes, probably, of course, but I think that it's so new and so little people know exactly about the technology. It can be very abstract that you don't have a large enough amount of people with power to be able to say, let's put regulations in place. Let's make this a practical thing that everybody can use, and let's get it out to everybody. And I think that that's what's stopping it, but it's knowledge of what it really is. And then it's getting the world to say, I agree to making this a type of information system that everybody uses because it has a large benefits, and we're going to support the system, and people are going to put money into it. All the countries are going to put money into it, and this is the way we're going to go. But it takes that, and when is that going to happen? It's hard to say.
I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all.
So we talked a lot about negative impacts, though. But one thing I did want to comment on was, what kind of positive impacts have you felt in your life with access to?
Okay, so earlier today, I say this all the time. Earlier today, my mom sent me a picture of this kid who's got like a pretty decent social following, like a kid who produces his own music. He like records it all, like produces it, recreates songs. He's like super talented. And she's like, his parents weren't even musicians or engineers. And I was like, yeah, but that kid has YouTube. And I think I use YouTube religiously for if I want to learn anything about anything. The first place I go to check and see if there's a tutorial on is fucking YouTube.
Exactly.
And it is more than paid for itself. And even with like how I spend my time on my phone, I've had to like trick myself. And I just now spend a lot of time on learning apps. So it's like I'm playing a game on my phone, but I'm learning. See?
Yeah.
But that's a positive to me. Like the fact that I can have access to all of that information with one device or, a couple different devices, and anything is fucking possible. Like really, YouTube alone, that's not even bringing into account all of the other internet forums. Dude, forums have saved my ass so many times,
right,
with recording shit, with gaming, with whatever. Like having the collective knowledge pool at your ready access, I wouldn't trade that. I wouldn't go back before this, because to give that up would be major for me. I like learning shit. I like amassing information.
But you're using it to better yourself and to learn. And
well, not all the time.
Well, you waste time too. Of course, everybody does that. But like, in general,
it's a thing. I spend a legitimate amount of time learning shit on YouTube. And
Yeah.
it can, like when I got the e-bike, I learned so much shit about e-bikes by watching people take their bikes apart. You know,
Yeah.
it's cool to be able to dip your toes in the knowledge pool, and it really is anything. Like any question you have that some asshole on the internet has answered it or at least asked it.
Right.
What do you, in your
That,
eyes, what are the biggest pros?
I mean, it's very similar. Like I remember just learning how to play an instrument I was just YouTubing all the time, and like YouTubing people playing the guitar style or whatever and showing and just watching. Just be like, oh, this is really cool. Like, uh, I don't need to go get an instructor. I can find exactly like what I like to watch, and I can watch people play, and I can sit there and I can learn it, and I can play it over and over again, or I could have somebody show me it how to do something. So it's like you mentioned bicycles. Like just literally recently, I have an old bike from my mom from like the 1970s that kind of got dilapidated over this winter with like the rain and stuff, and I'm just like YouTubing. How do I take it apart? How do I take this off? How do I take off the brakes? How do I replace them? How do I get the freewheel off? You know, like stuff like that. I mean, and it's fun, and it's good healthy entertainment, and you learn in the process, and it's like right there at your fingertips. And I'm sitting and I'm like, oh, I'm messing around with this for an hour. It's like this doesn't work. I go, how do you do this?
Yep.
Somebody has a video and they're like, let me show you how to do this.
Some asshole has a video.
And like I would never be like that, like I say now, but people out there, I mad respect for saying, hey, I have a skill. I want to share it with other people, you know, because there's a lot of people that make their living off stuff like that, you know, and so they're giving away little trades, and you know, you're never going to do it quite the same, but I do. I love that aspect about it. You know, I love the fact that we can sit here and do this and connect in a way that you know is just kind of unheard of for most of humanity.
The remote
That we can
access
see
to
each other.
anyone. Yeah.
We're instant. It's like you're there. You
Yep.
know, I mean, it's really nice. It keeps I think people's general mood about being connected to others up, um, and helps people feel less isolated. So I think to me those are kind of two of the main things. Just connecting with people quickly when you want to. Not saying that I do a lot, but when you need to, it's right there.
Well, again, just having the ability to at random be able to remotely connect with anybody in the world. I wouldn't trade that. I wouldn't go back before then, because the world is a cooler and more interesting place that way.
Right. I mean, could you imagine at the end of your life and someone was like, so just got to tell you, you could have had access to all these things and learned, you know, what you really wanted in life and the things that you really loved and go through all these types of music and literature and science but sorry, you didn't have any access to that. So you were blind to this whole other like part of like developing your brain, you know, which unfortunately does happen in certain places. And so I'm a proponent of being able to get more information to areas that are underserved in that respect. But also I think that it will help us. You'll have enough people rise from the technology storm and the information system storm that do better things with it, and it help develop it more. And kind of like the crows will kind of go their own way from there.
They're always going to be apart. There's always going to be some scumfuckery. There's always going to be some guy who's saying, I want to give access to these people in this remote area. And then he's just bombarding them with fucking advertising or some bullshit scheme. But by and large, this is the direction we're going. Humanity has kind of unanimously agreed this universal internet has become a much more commonly heard thing. Most major cities in America, it's just assumed that somewhere, especially the downtown area, is going to have free Wi-Fi. And you
Yeah.
know, it will take a while to get to other areas, but like we'll definitely get there. Especially what interests me the most, especially about the transmission of these things, is something new that I saw where you can transmit internet over your electrical line. because it's just an electrical signal.
Mhm.
And it's different than having a Cat 5 run through your house. Like you have a Cat 5 Cat 6 that goes into a box that you plug into an outlet, and it sends the signal from your router or whatever network device over your electricity in your wall, because it's just a signal. That's why I've always embraced everything digital, even recording shit. I knew there was going to be a point at which, and we're basically there now, where it's indistinguishable and everything is digitized. There isn't a single recording that you hear on Spotify that didn't get digitized. It had to become digital for you to hear.
It does at the end. So what's it matter?
What the fuck does it matter? And anymore, like with the crazy bit depths and sampling frequencies we can get to now, digital just sounds better. That's
people are more used to it.
So now for sure, yeah.
Yeah, and it's gotten light years better. I mean, they have emulators. They have the IR responses. They literally do all the IR responses for all the dope cabs.
Cleaner and more reliably than miking it in a room.
And you can change it immediately. So it's like, I've been like, man, why am I still holding on to this analog amp head when I could just like get rid of it and I could go fractal or something? And I just have like 50 different amp heads right now, and I'm not going to be able to tell the difference. Nobody's ever going to know.
No, they won't. I love that. The digitization, the digital component of our existence is amazing because it allows us access to so much with the actual necessary interface of a very small and compact profile.
Yeah.
Like the fractal is a good example. That's hundreds of cubic feet of guitar equipment in a tiny little box. The phone.
Right.
That's every fucking library in the world that ever existed in your hand. Your phone has more computing power than the rocket that took people to the fucking moon.
Right.
It's
pretty amazing.
It's amazing. Again, I don't want to go back. I'm not the kind of person who's saying, I want to go back to that simpler life.
Stone Age. Let's send smoke signals to each other. Hey, dinner's ready.
Okay, so we're getting down to the last 15 minutes. That may be a good spot to kind of bite in. Has communication got that much different? Like when I see how most people communicate with each other through text now, that shit looks like hieroglyphics. It looks like goddamn shit that got scratched on the inside of a cave with ash. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
And like, did we evolve at all? Did anything change, or are we just sending like,
Well, I think
signals?
so. I mean, humans are amazing at condensing information in a way, because that's how they developed all these systems.
It was required, yeah. It's so many different points.
There's so little that you need to actually get from a word or a sentence to understand what it means, And so people, I get it. A lot of people would roll in their graves of not being like grammatically correct or anything, but I think that it's pretty amazing that you can send something to someone that's super condensed and short, and they're going to understand you. So it's like, is that more efficient? Is that better? So what if it's not an actually English word or whatever? Like I've always found that was pretty amazing that humans can understand it. I mean, if you're sending it to your grandmother, maybe sometimes certain things like she might not understand, but she doesn't know yet.
I guess that is kind of what I'm saying. Is like, did it really change? Like ultimately, we're still using the maybe incredible network of communications infrastructure that we have now we're just simply communicating very simple messages, and even the real complex ones, are they really that complex?
Yeah.
That's something.
What are the human needs? Human needs are very similar to what they've always been, which is surviving and connecting with people in simple ways.
Yep.
Hey, can you come over? I'll be there.
We did
what do you want for dinner?
Here's a picture.
Yeah.
No, dude, I was going through the history of all that stuff, and that's just like the thing. Another thing that I couldn't really get over is like, did it change? We're just sending slightly more advanced smoke signals to each other now. And, apart from the speed at which we can communicate now, I think the other thing that was interesting to me is like how long ago some of these technologies existed. Like, I was familiar with ARPANET and the precursors of the internet and how that had been around for a while. But the first video phone call, I think it was in the articles that you sent, and I don't remember exactly where I wrote it down. But it came a little bit after, because they had already discovered radio waves and knew how to transmit and even a visual image, but it had to come after the cathode ray tube, and it cost like $550 million, and it was like the shitty small cathode ray tube, like the very first FaceTime. That was probably the shittiest of the shit, but just we had it that long ago, like we had portable phone technology in the 60s.
About 100 years ago. Yeah. Not even, maybe.
Yeah. And it's crazy. And this always like pisses me off because of how wasteful it is. Like how when the new thing comes out, we just as a society abandon the old one. We're like, all right, no one ever use these again. And in fact, we're going to make it illegal for you to do that. We did it with the analog to digital TV signals, probably some of the phone lines, definitely with the internet line transmissions with going from cable to fiber optic. As soon as we pick something new, we're just like, fuck it. We're done with the old thing. DSL, never using that again.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to try to reuse infrastructure when you can, but some of them aren't made robust enough to handle the fidelity of like sending large amounts of information, because it all relies on your signal integrity being really high.
Yeah,
if you're going to send a lot of information, but I don't think in general that we've gone too far from like what we're actually trying to tell each other. Like overall, like human beings will evolve more, but it's just a short period of time for all this technology to really like affect us in a way that we're gonna change like significantly, because of the process of evolution taking millions of years.
Yeah, right.
But maybe it will, and it's hard to say because we'll never see it. But we kind of I would say we're at the beginning of it. We're at the beginning of how this is affecting and changing people's thought process.
For sure. There was this, I always remember this from, I think it was a communications class. There's this effect that astronauts have, I can't remember the exact name, but it's called the bird's eye effect or something. It's when they would see the Earth from space the first time any human had ever seen it from space. It made them think about the world differently because of their perspective of seeing it as a singular unit. And God, I wish I could remember what it's called, but Google Earth. Like just thinking that our generation really was the first generation to be able to freely explore the world untethered. I can go on Google Earth. This isn't a globe. This isn't a map. This is a fucking picture of a place. There's people in that picture. That's a house somewhere in the world. That in itself, I think that had a more profound effect on the human race than most people take into consideration. Yeah. Because think about that. For all of history, maybe those cultures knew, but they had no proof. Maybe they did the math, but they hadn't left the planet. And when the first wave of astronauts that left the planet, overview effect, that's what it's called.
Okay.
But after they would see the Earth as the singular unit holistically and not, from their position on the ground, it completely altered their perspective on the beings on the planet and the purpose of the beings on the planet. And
and it takes a human to see it to really convince you, because long before that, I think it was Voyager that they had sent off, and they took the picture of the Earth called the pale blue dot that was just this tiny.
Yeah.
but
Spec.
somebody wasn't in that vessel. It didn't affect somebody enough. And well, I mean, it did, but you had to be like on in tune to that. It wasn't like a person in there that I saw it and that person's gonna come back and say things differently. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, this took a picture for me, and now I see that for what it is. But I think that gets into like personal communication, like face to face. Somebody is always in a way going to have probably more impacts than any other form of information coming to you, because
Yeah.
you're right there with that person physically. Like there's different feelings of emotion coming from them.
No, dude, absolutely.
So I think that's one of the biggest things that that we lose a bit. And I don't know in the future if there's other ways to make more real, like our connection right now, like more real and have more an impact on you. um, is that necessary? I'm not sure, but I guess because we're coming from the old school where we lived in a world like that more when we were kids, that maybe it's what I desire, but it's not necessarily what's needed, you know. But I do feel like just the personal contact and um, expressions and uh, importance of that, for me at least, it's just opinionated, is always kind of trumped like digital media
No,
formats.
dude,
And
for everybody. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that's not going to translate well over text. And it's totally right,
yeah.
because you can't, the emotional component to communication in person, there's nothing that compares to that. That's why seeing a live show is what it is. That's why going to a live theater experience is what it is. That the human to human conveyance of emotion. When you add the screen as the filter in between it gets very strange.
Yeah.
Um, and even in the simplest form, like the reason society has behaved up until a certain point is there was the risk that you might get punched in the face, right? The internet changed that. So it's like in some ways it was the
Say whatever you want.
goddamn glue that binded us together. The threat of being punched in the face for saying some dumb shit in front of somebody.
I know we got a couple of minutes left, but you did mention very early that you had a couple funny anecdotes or something that you maybe wanted to say, and I was
Well,
wondering if you could share one.
the first one was for sure the first FaceTime chat situation. That was just fucking hysterical. But hang on, I think I had these at the bottom. Nope, nope, nope. 1 second. Oh, dude. Alexander Graham Bell was fucking savage. Uh, he he. Okay, so Bell really none of these devices were invented by one person. It
Right.
was
There's
decades of
controversy for who
research.
created the phone and
Right,
all that. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there's many components that had to be created before all of them could be assembled. But the person who widely received credit for it was Alexander Graham Bell. He held the master patent, and it was required for such services in both the UK and the US. Savage. Fucking owned communications at its inception. All other patents flowed down from the master patent. It's
Wow.
crazy.
Did
A.G.
not know
Bell
that.
and Gardner Green Hubbard created the first telephone company, Bell Telephone Company, which evolved into AT&T, at times the largest phone company in the world, and many times very dangerously close to monopoly.
Hmm.
There was hang on, something else about this. Oh yeah, our first attempts at doing undersea shit. transatlantic voice comms remained impossible for customers until January 1927, when a connection was established using radio. No, wait, I forgot something here. Oh, yeah, no cable connection existed until TAT-1 in September of 1956, providing 36 telephone circuits. And only 6 years before the first commercial telecom satellite, Telstar, is launched.
Wow.
That's fucking, again, it's like the rate at which this shit moves and how quickly we abandoned the old thing is just so funny. It's so human. It's like, oh, something new? Fuck this old shit. Completely new. We're going with this now. This is clearly way better. We're doing this. But there was some other note there about I think I accidentally deleted it, but
About how he became the first person everybody thinks of. He was savage in a way that, I mean, he got the patent. He got the main one.
And
there was a lot of other people that had developed probably the same technology and could have. But what was there any information you had about how he was able to swindle that?
No. And that's like, honestly, that would probably be another show. Same thing with Edison.
Right.
Like, dude, Edison was ruthless.
Yeah.
Bro,
yeah.
It's like debatable he did any of the fucking inventions. He was just really a patent farm. Tesla even said that. But Alexander Graham Bell, bro, he was like one of the robber barons for sure. That motherfucker. I'm sure if we scraped away at that, there would be some like hardcore Rockefeller level dirty business.
Well,
dealings.
he lived in the right time where nobody could document it.
Yeah, seriously.
So.
He lived at the exact right time. That's something that I talk about frequently too. Like the reason serial killers were so abundant in the 70s and 80s, no security cameras. There was no deterrent. And then as that technology became more of a thing, and then of course with cell phones, like, bro, nobody commits a murder without leaving some data somewhere. No criminal is that good. I don't know if you heard the Long Island serial killer.
I did. I heard about that a little bit. Pretty crazy.
They got BTK. They'll get you. Golden State Killer. Nobody is good.
Yeah.
Nobody's too good for this shit.
Yeah, that's a scary one, man. That was right in your back of your woods there. So,
well, Courtney
must have been kind of hairy.
Yeah, we've been paying attention to that. Not really. I mean, not compared to the shit I see in New York, but, bro. That's a whole other one, like the active serial killers.
You're gonna have to have a talk about that. I don't know if you've already done an episode on that, but
Clint and I did one, but it was like real half cocked. Like we decided right before we were gonna go on and do it.
Okay, just go and do some research deep into it. Yeah,
that's 50 fucking episodes. There's so many different strange rabbit holes you can find yourself down.
James, that's your door in to the making money talking.
Just talking about serial killers, yeah, for sure.
People love it.
Yeah, they really do. Of the clips that we have, the clips that get the highest watches are the ones about Michael Aquino, the ones about H.H. Holmes being possibly the Whitechapel killer. What's his name? God damn it, Jack the Ripper. There's a couple clips that we put out like a long time ago that still get views because people want to fucking know about it. But all right, we've gone over the hour here. We're gonna wrap this up. Kellen, buddy, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
We got to pick another topic and have you on.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of fun. The wedding and stuff. No, this is an awesome conversation. And
congrats to you. It's coming up. We're getting married within a couple weeks of each other, which is crazy. But
we're getting fucking married.
I hope you're excited.
Honestly, it's one of the only things I'm looking forward to in this life.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, me too. I'm loving it.
It's right. It's my wedding, and then really the comet. Those are the only things in my life that I'm looking for. But stay on. Is the
comet the day after, or like what?
No, a while after, but it's coming. All right, toodles. All right. Stay on.
This has been the Totally Legitimate Business Podcast. The end. With your host, James Oliva. Executive producers, Clint G and James Oliva. That's obnoxious. Sound design, mix, and master by James Oliva. Literally no one cares. For more totally legitimate business, subscribe to our YouTube channel at Totally Legitimate Business or add us on TikTok at TLB Pod. When will this end? Thank you for listening. Now get back to work. Move it along, buddy.